All right. Sorry, I had to click right there so I could get that cleared up. All right. So we're going to start on Explore number 3, BMX dirt bike racing. Okay. So I'll show the pages in just a minute. It is on pages number 63 and 64. So if we just look through the instructions there, we got to read pages 63 through 64 at the beginning. Answer the questions A and B on procedure number 1. Okay. So that's the first thing we got to do. Then we'll access Tuva. And if you look in here, I have put it for English, and then I've also put it for Spanish. So click the one that correlates to you, okay? And then follow the procedures on page 63 to be able to complete the graph on and answer the questions on page number 64. Then complete the graph, make sure it's fully labeled, questions 1 through 4, and then make sure to put your name on it. Make a single PDF of pages 63 and 64. Turn it in. Those are the instructions, okay? So let's go ahead and move on to the actual pages, okay? So over here, the prompt says, exploring bike weights and jump heights. So dirt bike racing is an exciting sport. Bikers hit amazing jumps and drops and showcase the skill. In this activity, you will create scatter plots to investigate the relationship between bike weights and jump heights. All right, for sure. So the first thing to do here is ponder the following questions. Is jump height associated with bike height? Right? And so the question is, that's a yes or no question. So hopefully you thought the answer was yes, okay? So if yes, then what is the nature of its association? And again, association is just how are two things linked together. So like if someone asked you how you were associated with me, you would say, oh, Mr. Farr is my 8th grade science teacher. Cool. That's how we are associated or how we are linked. Now, hopefully you're thinking of something like, well, the heavier the bike might be, the more it might weigh, then it seems like it's going to be harder to make it jump. So the jump height might go down as the weight actually goes up. Maybe something like that you're thinking, because you're knowing like the more weight or the more mass an object has, then the more force that is needed to get it to jump or to move or whatever, right? Like we've been going over that in Newton's second law. Okay, cool. Then we're going to go through all of these, right? So then you got to access Tuva and then the dirt bike racing. So we're going to actually do that literally like right now. So if we click into the assignment, right, like right here, and I'm going to click the one for English. Again, if you want to do Spanish, it has it in Spanish right there. Blat out. So we're going to click it. We're going to open it. Get that thing open. All right. So waiting for Tuva to load. So now that it's loaded, mine looks a little bit different than yours because I have the teacher version. Okay. But this part is the part that looks exactly like yours. There's that prompt we read already. And then here is the actual procedures that we're actually going to go through. So we already answered these questions. In your notebook on page number 63, we already answered those questions. Okay, so I got my little handy dandy notebook right here. So I'm ready. I'm just with y'all. Okay. Then the next thing you're going to want to do, okay, is go down here to where it says access to Tuva. Now we're already in the Tuva. The Tuva is right here. Okay, Tuva data set. And then we're going to analyze the relationship again between bike weight and jump height, okay? And in this case, we're going to use a scatter plot, okay? And a scatter plot is just the idea that we're going to plot a bunch of different coordinates and they're going to be scattered around, kind of in the way that you see it right there, okay? So first thing right here, it says click reset. So that's this button. I should be looking for that to begin your investigation. There I see it right there. And if I hover over it, it says reset the plot. So I'm going to go ahead and reset it. Boom, it resets it. All right, next thing is click on dot to choose the way your data will display. So I'm going to click on dot. It's right there. And it's either dot or it's scatter plot. So now we're like moving into this. Okay, cool. So we're working that. Then it says drag maximum jump. Oh, no, sorry. I skipped. Ooh, don't skip. So drag weight to the x-axis. And remember, this going up and down is the y-axis, and then going left to right is the x-axis. And then I forgot. Oh, weight. That's the one I got to drag down there. So I'm going to grab weight right here, and then I'm going to drag it on down to the x-axis. Boom. And as you can see, it put the numbers and on the actual graph for the weight. So that's good. So now we're doing good there. Then it says drag maximum jump height to the y-axis. Again, that's the one going up and down. Here's maximum jump height. I'm going to drag it right there. Boom. Now I have my x-axis set and I have my y-axis set. That is totally cool. Now, what's the last thing we got to do here? So it says least square lines, right? Or least squares line under model data, and it has this weird like symbol. So I'm like, okay, let me go to that weird symbol, least square lines, and then least square lines. Okay, cool. I'm ready to go. Now, some people were like, oh, it's whited out. I can't say least square lines. And it's because of the fact that you don't have your X and Y axis set. So you got to make sure those are set first. Again, just follow along exactly here. So now I have this, and it put the slope in there for me. Now, I do want to talk about this for a minute, how we get this line. So they call this line, and I think it's up here. They call it a line of best fit. Sometimes it's called the trend line. It's also called the average slope. And how this thing is calculated is usually what you guys use is this formula to calculate slope, and the one that you guys are using is this one. So x2 minus x sub 1 divided by y2 minus y sub 1. Okay, so that's the one you guys are using. Now that will give you the slope between this point and that point, okay? Now what the computer does is it calculates the slope between this point, and then it goes from this point to this point right here. Then it calculates from this point to that point. If you can see, that's already 1, 2, 3 slopes. Then it calculates between these two. That's a 4th slope. Between these two, that's a 5th slope. Between these two, that's a 6th slope. Between these two, that's a 7th slope. Between these two, that's an 8th slope. And between these two, that's a 9th slope. So the computer is going to calculate the slope between each one of those, right? Then what it's going to do is it's going to take all of those slopes and add them together and divide them by 9, because that's how you find the average slope. Now, as you can see, that would take a lot of work for us to use this formula to do it all by hand. This is why in science we do not typically calculate the slope by hand, because it would take too long, because we have too many data points. So that's where we can use powerful data processing systems like Tuva dataset, like this Tuva, to be able to put all that information together for us. Now it's important to actually learn that and understand it in math and how to calculate it and what's going on there, so that you can truly get an understanding for what's happening in this trend line and in this slope. Okay, cool. So now let's just go to the questions and we'll see what's up. So first it says draw and label the generated scatter plot. So all you're going to do is draw everything that you see here, including all the lines, all the numbers, because all those things are important. And then you're going to put that it's the weight in pounds, and then that's the maximum jump height in inches, right? So you're going to get all of that done. Okay, that's number 1, okay? So you're going to get all that drawn in. Okay, then on number 2, it says, is there a positive, negative, or no relationship between the bike weight and the jump height? Explain your answer using the scatter plot. So you could say this, and when it says is it positive, it means are they working together? Sorry, my phone's going off. Or are they working against, right? So are they working against? So positive or negative relationship, or is there no relationship at all? If there is no relationship, the line should probably just be flat and nothing should be happening. Now, if there's some sort of relationship, the line is going to be a positive slope, or it's going to be a negative slope, right? And in this case, it is a negative slope because it is going down as it moves from left to right. Then that means that it's also a negative relationship, right? Or a negative correlation, or sometimes we call it an inverse correlation. And so it's this idea that it looks like as the weight seems to be going up and increasing, the jump height of the bike seems to be decreasing. And that's why we would call it a negative relationship. And you would just explain it using this graph, saying like, hey, well, the weight goes up of the bike, then the actual jump height of the bike actually seems to be decreasing. So that explains this one. So there is a negative relationship between the bike weight and the jump height, because as one variable increases, the other variable decreases. So then the next thing is, how does the jump height vary as the weight of the bike increases? And that's a very similar answer to them. So as the weight of the bike increases, the maximum jump height decreases. That's exactly what we talked about in there, right? And then we go to the last one. Calculate the slope or the rate of change. What does it mean in this context? Now, the awesome thing about this, since we did this on the computer, we actually can see the data table view. So this is actually pretty cool. This is the whole data table that they used to actually to create this graph. And then we can also see the summary view, and it gives us the slope right there. So that's the awesome part, is we don't have to calculate slope. When you use the computer has already calculated the slope. So Let's just keep going, and that's the rate of change. So the slope is negative 0.15. This means that for every additional pound, right? So for every pound that goes up, the bike caused a decrease. The bike caused a decrease of maximum jump by 0.15 inches. That's cray-cray, right? So again, for every 1 pound that the bike went up, then the bike was able to jump 0.15 inches less, right? So again, that is the correlation. So hopefully that all makes sense for you. Hopefully that clears things up right there. There was a little, some people were feeling a little confused with things, but hopefully that clears everything up. All right, guys, that's everything for the Explore number 3, BMX dirt bike racing. Now, one thing I probably should have shown earlier, and I'm not sure why I skipped over it, I apologize, is let's go back to this and let's just actually look at what kind of dirt bike racing they're actually talking about. I actually meant to show that, but I skipped it on accident. So I'm going to show it now, okay? So these are the kind of bikes that they're actually talking about. So take a look at it. Blot out.
Okay, riders, let's set them up. Riders ready. Watch the gate.
We lose Greg Romero.
Oh, somebody crashed already.
And Robbie Miranda takes charge in the gray bib. The Comcast Skycam shows Randy Stumphauser in the yellow bib out front. But look at Robert DeWild.
Oh, he cut inside.
The first turn makes a clean move. Great move by DeWild in the purple bib as Robbie Miranda charges that track. Speaking of charging, take a look at the green bib. Bubba Harris on the bubble right now. And also Brian Foster, the 2001 silver medalist, stuck in 5th place, Craig. DeWild, he's opening it up once again. The second time we've seen this.
They're going pretty fast.
Foster trying to make some moves as the split times come up. DeWild, Miranda, Stumphauser, and Harris. Brian Foster, this guy is clever. He can get around him at any time.
Wow.
Robbie Miranda is off the track. Whoa, Robbie holds on though for 2nd place and advances to the
There we go. Okay, so that is the type of BMX bikes they're talking about, and it's this idea that for every pound this bike increases in weight, then the maximum jump height actually decreases by 0.15 inches, okay? And that's what we calculated. All right, y'all. Peace.